Welcome back to Fox Eyes on the Hill Live this Sunday morning. You know, we're just 2 days away from Super Tuesday. Virginia is one of those states that is going to be holding a primary on Tuesday, so we want to welcome in the Democratic Senate Caucus Chair from Virginia, Mamie Locke, joining us live from Richmond this morning. Good to see you. You know, when the Virginia General Assembly elections were held, Democrats went all in on the issue of abortion. Is that the playbook for Democrats to repeat heading into, not only what we'll see on Tuesday, but into the fall?
Thank you very much for having me here this morning. It remains a very important and solid issue for Democrats, and thanks to Alabama, it keeps, coming up with the court ruling on IVF, and we simply keep saying that it is a woman's right to make the choices about her health care and her body. So, and that's what we kept hearing on the doors in every single issue, and every single door that we knocked in every single town hall, that remained at the top of all of the issues that came to us. It was about abortion and about the fact that Virginia remained the only state in the South that did not have a ban.
Some of the polling has shown Donald Trump having an edge in Virginia right now. But from your standpoint, do you view that from the prism of the fact that, he is out of office right now when people are looking to him aspirationally to address some of these issues? Or is this a direct result of what President Biden has or has not been doing in the White House?
I think a lot of what is happening right now is, one, he is out of office. And also, I've always said that for us Democrats, we tend not to message very hard on all of the great things that we do. And President Biden and Vice President Harris have done a lot of great things in the 3.5 years that they've been in office. And we need to message more on all of those great things.
One of the things we've seen over the last couple of years, though, is, Virginia had kind of moved from a red state to a blue state. It's pushing back maybe a little bit now to a purple state, when that balance of Democrats and Republicans come into play. Where are you seeing the trend right now?
I think that Virginia remains purple to blue, and that was demonstrated quite clearly last November when our Republican colleagues tried very hard to push Virginia into the more purple to red, and that didn't work. When the discussion was around a 15-week ban, and it was very clearly shown that the abortion issue was top of the scale in a lot of communities, and when we as Democrats use that as part of our talking points by very clearly stating that a ban is a ban. It doesn't matter how many weeks you put on it, a ban is a ban.
So not only do we have the news coming up about Super Tuesday on Tuesday, later on in the week, we've got the State of the Union. What does Joe Biden need to say in that speech to galvanize your voters who, so far really have not been part of this primary process because the president is the de facto nominee?
Okay, in order to energize and motivate our Democratic base, the president needs to really hit hard what he and Vice President Harris have done over the course of this administration. And they have done a lot. He needs to talk about the CHIPS Act. He needs to talk about infrastructure. He needs to talk about health care and everything that they've done in that arena. They need to talk about the fact that they have protected voting rights. They've protected abortion rights. So he needs to talk about all of the successes, despite the fact that he has been thwarted at every turn by a Republican majority in the House that seems to battle him at every turn, and they will not come to the table to speak very directly and in a bipartisan way to assist.
Has that been harder to do for the White House because of the fact that the president has not been, facing these kinds of primaries the way Trump has?
Of course it has. When you have what you have called de facto nominees, they don't have to go out there and kind of make that pitch in a primary race. But at the same time, I think that Vice President Harris and President Biden still need to be on the road, letting it be known that this is what we've done and this is what we have accomplished.
Right. Virginia State Senator and Democratic Caucus Chair Mamie Locke joining us live from Richmond this morning. Senator, appreciate your time. We appreciate you joining us.